All right. I think we are live now. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the March Public Safety Committee meeting. Um, Tonight we have a not too packed an agenda, but we got a few items to go over. So first we'll do our roll call. Next, we'll be hearing hopefully from a guest speaker, Roxana Hernandez, who is the incoming student council president at Cardozo. And we'll be asking her some questions about her experience as a student, as a young person in DC, what she thinks about the youth curfew, what programming she wants youth to have more access to, how she's interacting with recreation centers in the area, and the biggest issues she sees at her school, as well as any other questions that folks have. Then we'll go on to our usual MPD crime updates, assuming that someone from MPD joins us this evening. And then the fourth item, I wanted to discuss safe passage. We had a great meeting last month where we discussed the safe passage program with Jasmine Banab from the mayor's office, from the deputy mayor for public and safety and justice. One of the ideas that we've been discussing and that really came out of that, which she supported, was that safe passage should be expanded from serving middle schools and high schools to also serving elementary schools, which currently there are not safe passage ambassadors who are stationed near elementary schools helping elementary school students get to school. So I would love for someone from the committee to take the lead on drafting a resolution for that we could ideally vote on at one of our next couple meetings. And then finally, we'll do our community announcements. And then, one thing at the end too, I am going to be out of the country at the beginning of next month, so we'll need to reschedule our meeting. And so my hope would be that we could do, let's see here. Let me just pull it up, the 1B calendar. My hope would be that we could do the meeting on April 14th. Oh, actually, I don't think it conflicts. Okay, actually, we're good. I will be back in the country by the time our meeting is happening. So April 14th, Tuesday, April 14th is still the date of our next meeting. All right, I am going to call the roll. Committee member Nakapon, are you here? I see you're driving, so
I am
be
I am
safe.
here.
Perfect. Committee member Julius Duhan, are you here?
Present.
Committee member Leah Trevette, are you here?
Present.
And committee member Karen Gall, are you here?
I'm present.
Wonderful. Um, all right. Well, I do not see our guest speaker in the audience right now, so I think she kind of mentioned that she might hop on later in the meeting, so I guess we can circle back to her whenever we're able to. I see we do have Captain Murphy or someone with Captain Murphy's name in the audience, so I'm going to allow them to talk and they can give us some updates on crime and MPD activities over the last month. Hello, is this Captain Murphy?
Everybody, Lieutenant Hiller here.
Hello, Lieutenant Hiller. It's been too long.
Yes, very busy.
I can
Yeah,
imagine.
so the last, if you guys give me a minute, I can go through some of the stats. I believe we have increase on theft from autos in the area. We're planning to continue like slow patrol and vigilance. Um, the majority of them happen around the nighttime area. Um, we have a significant decrease in homicides and assault with dangerous weapons. We had some robberies, I believe, I think one or two, but If you guys give me a minute, I can log in with the statistics to be more certain about. So we have had we definitely have a decrease in property crimes. We have an increase compared to last year. Robberies, we have, I believe, one or two, if I'm not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Assault with dangerous weapons. We had some burglaries in the area. I believe was one of the establishment on 8th Street, if I'm not correct, 8th or 10th Street. Hold 1 second. I'm having problems with the system right now. My apologies.
You're good. I'm curious if
My
you could give a
apologies.
report out on the extended or enhanced juvenile youth curfew zones that were established, I believe, this past weekend.
Yeah, this past weekend we have very high activity of juveniles from Friday all the way up to Sunday, Sunday night. Um, and I believe yesterday we have a group like around 100 juveniles between Banneker Center and Georgia Avenue. Um,
Hmm.
they were, they what they usually do, they come through the first district from the Navy Yard area, and come here. Usually take the Metro bus. Um, we implemented the curfew zone. Started at 8 o'clock, and so far we didn't have no issues. They basically dispersed real quick. We have units from other districts come and help us out. What we usually do is we situate the vans between all the intersections of U Street and Monitor Banneker. They were peaceful this weekend, so we basically what we do we try to stop them, identify them. Whoever don't identify themselves, uh, try to release them with their parents.
Hmm.
And if not, they don't identify themselves, we take them to Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services. So they will
Yeah.
contact their parents, and from there they be released.
So just to understand, you mentioned
Uh,
that youth were coming from Navy Yard to U Street, or are
usually,
separate paths?
usually that's where they start uh, getting earlier. Sometimes they do. This weekend they started from uh, the Navy Yard, and then they start basically dispersing in small groups, take the metro, and start heading to U Street. And once they get to U Street, it's kind of difficult. I don't know if they know the curfew law, but they start dispersing in smaller groups,
Hmm.
and that's when it's kind of difficult to because they spread in the crowds of U Street. So that's most likely what we trying to stop them. But so far this weekend was kind of peaceful.
That's good to hear. Does anybody else
Yeah.
have any questions?
during the summer, we're gonna keep implementing this. That's what we worked last summer. Me and
Hmm.
Captain Murphy, we were outside basically the whole summer, out during the weekend, monitoring this group of juveniles. So they be peaceful. They're not jumping in vehicles, parked vehicles, destroying property. Monitor them that they're not be consuming alcohol in public, which is
Hmm.
a arrestable offense for possession of open container. We had several arrests for illegal consumption of marijuana too. So we have catch some juveniles, unfortunately,
Hmm.
uh, consum- consumption of marijuana. What we do, we arrest them, basically stop them and arrest them, try to avoid any but once we start arresting them and stopping them, what they usually is they go home. They get in the buses and these juveniles come from all over the place. They come from Baltimore. We have students from Baltimore, Virginia, Hyattsville, from all over the city. Not only from the city, they come from outside the city too.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. But this Commander Connors, and the new nightlife lieutenant, and this major, they will be, and Captain Murphy will be continue during the summer, approaching these juveniles as the same matter or more aggressively that last year.
Hmm. Okay. So far, no signs of the problem
So far,
alleviating.
this weekend we have most likely like a little uh taste because it's warmer, but
Mhm.
usually that's when it starts around springtime, spring break. We definitely we I know we're gonna get some large group of juveniles coming to U Street area, the PSA 305. Yes, so we're gonna continue monitoring what we do. Like I explained before, we get curfew vans and curfew cars from all over the 7 districts. They come and help us out with high visibility and monitoring this group of juveniles, enforcing the curfew zone area.
Got it. Well, thank you for those updates. Yeah, I mean, unless there's anything else you wanted to note in terms of crime in the area, I guess it sounds like the good news is that crime is still down
Yes,
compared to last year.
it is still down considerably. The last report, I believe it was 56% of violent crime. Property crimes, we did have an increase on theft from autos and thefts in the area reported, which will gonna continue. I'm encouraging my officers to stay vigilant in the area, lights in position too during the evening and midnight hours. The thing is, like some of these reports are documented or reported late. So sometimes day work usually end up taking the reports because
Hmm.
people are tired, they don't want to report it right away, and we end up having late reports. But we will continue monitoring this, slow patrolling the area, lights in position too, and monitoring this property crimes.
Great. Great. Well, yeah, thank you for those updates, Lieutenant Hiller. Thanks for joining the meeting.
Thank you.
Um, All right. Well, I think we should move on to our next agenda item, which was the safe passage uh, resolution that I mentioned earlier. I'm curious, I know not everyone was able to join our last meeting, but Nakapan or Karen, I don't know if you want to fill in the committee about, what we heard at the last meeting from Jasmine Banab at the mayor's office about safe passage and about this idea of expanding the program.
Well, the first thing I did was I informed her about Cleveland Elementary School, where, give me a minute, please.
Yeah, of course.
Well, I informed Jasmine Banab about the need for the expansion and she of expanding the safe passage program to elementary schools because they have not been utilizing it. But I pinpointed a great need with Cleveland Elementary School being one of the schools, but we have a number of schools in the third district that need to have the safe passage program. So it's not just that. And so she, of course, Cleveland being in 1B, but she also highlighted the ones that we have in the Columbia Heights, Adams Morgan area as well, that the safe passage program would be helpful. That they had not thought about it, and I'm glad that we had a chance to have that discussion. We never did get any information back from them. They were supposed to be returning some numbers about the report card
Yeah, yeah.
from the safe passage program with her she brought in one of her I want to say I don't I mean
Community-based organization.
community-based organization, but
Yeah,
I'm just I don't want to coin it incorrectly the name of the organization because
yeah.
for some reason it's escaping me. But the fact that they she was using them as the giving them the person as a person to speak on the program because they had reported like 250 different people that had reported back on a survey. We were expecting some information. She said that she would follow up, and she hasn't. I haven't received anything. I did try to follow up with their office, and I haven't gotten any feedback, but I'm going to keep
Hmm.
trying.
Hmm.
I do think that it's important that we make sure that the parents feel comfortable with their children who are in areas that may be impacted from if there's any type of drug activity. That's one thing, which has been traditional around Cleveland Elementary. But the secondary thing is that because of the ICE patrols, we've really had a huge issue in the Adams Morgan area, as well as in the Shaw area with the and they want to have some type of protective help, but I don't think that they're going to get it right. As I think they're a little reticent. Some of the parents
Hmm.
are a little reticent about using any other type of programming that is not their internal programming. So I think the Safe Passage program that is working, that Jasmine had mentioned, may be helpful. I'm it's sort of as you can understand, this type of situation that we're having is a little bit different than it was before when it was just focusing on a drug activity. But when you have
Hmm. Yeah.
another type of agency that is impacting, that's beyond and much more harmful than the other violent activities before, it's a little bit different. So I guess it's going to take some serious strategic work. But to see how that's going to work for everybody, so that everyone can feel safe. So that's what I have to say about it. Um, I did, and I know my co public safety sister, Miss Leah. We did our council testimony.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so we're look, Leah, she's my partner. We work on we love sitting in front of city council and having conversations about public safety. And I had spoke not just at for the judiciary, public safety, but I've also spoke with directly with council member Louis George about this as well, about safe passage in regards to how we need to have it connected to our recreation centers, because if the students are unable to get to the recreation centers and utilize the recreation centers in a safe way, then there's really,
Mm,
it's not doing the due diligence that the recreation center should have. They should be able to have safety around the recreation centers, and I think that having the safe passage program there is really, really helpful.
mhm.
So hopefully, and that's what I spoke to Council Member Lewis George. That was something, another caveat that I had already had, that we didn't have that discussion in this ANC meeting, but it's something that we've been working with 3D CAC to try to ensure that we have more engagement with the youth involved with the recreation centers to get there safely, because sometimes some of the recreation centers tend to have a lot of activity around them that is not conducive to good community atmosphere. But again, the overarching issue that we have with the ICE issue has been superseding all of the other harmful impacts that we were having before. So that's the main priority right now. So that was it. Did I answer all your questions that we discussed? Because that was the gist of what I understood. But Nakapan could probably fill in the rest, and Leah too, since she can talk about her testimony.
I would love to hear about it.
I mean,
No, I
I
think
can. Oh, you go,
Knock,
I,
Naka.
was-
knock
I think
upon,
you did a
please.
great
You go
job,
first.
Karen. You did a great job.
Thank you, Nakapan.
I can at least speak to the concerns for Cleveland, Cleveland Elementary, which I agree with Karen about. I'm actually pretty well connected with them, and I've been helping with morning and arrival. So they have like an informal program right now going on to sort of fill this void, both from like Safe Passage and in terms of like increased law enforcement that's been happening in the Shaw area. So they have a more informal group of like neighbors and teachers and parents that have been helping kids at dismissal and arrival. Um, I don't know off the top of my head what other elementary schools that would be within our ANC that might need help. But if we wanted to expand beyond that, I'd definitely have like contacts at some of the Columbia Heights, Adams Morgan, and Mount Pleasant elementary schools. But I think some of them have also been doing something very similar of like they know
Yeah,
they need help with their kids to arrive and leave school safely for a variety of reasons. And I think starting in August when school went back, a lot of schools have sort of like struck up their own informal school-based programs.
well,
I think 3DC for a while was also helping with arrival and dismissal, but I don't know what that looks like currently because now it's March. And I feel like people's capacity might have gone down from that from August. But I definitely know there are definitely some informal programs happening with schools. So I think if that could somehow be connected to Safe Passage in a way that makes like parents feel really good about what's helping them and their kids, I think that would be awesome. I don't know what that would look like, but
you
that
you
Can
could
you
know
explain
what,
that more?
Leah? I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Francois, because I was going to add to that. But go ahead,
I was
Francois.
just wondering if you could explain that a little bit more.
which part?
Like how you think it'll help parents feel good, I guess.
I mean, I think like to connect it more with Safe Passage.
Yeah.
I think having a consistent presence in general will help
Yeah,
parents feel really, really like a consistent presence that like is known to the school, is known to them, is known to the kids.
Hmm.
And I don't actually know full details of how Safe Passes work. I'm assuming it's often the same adults attached to the same schools or at least within the same area so that parents can have that like
Yeah.
familiarity feeling and same with kids. Um,
Hmm.
so I think like that would be really good because I know, I mean, there is at least again, I can only speak for Cleveland. Like it is the same group of people that have been helping because like we obviously have different work schedules and appointments. Like I can't be there every day, but I'm there a few times a week. But I
Hmm.
think if it's like a more formalized program, I think that's also way more consistent, not just for kids, but also for the school itself. Because like if there are days where like out of this like informal program, only two people can make it instead of, I don't know, like five or six, like that means that
I
there
see.
four less people looking
Hmm.
out for their kids than there normally would be. Whereas again, I imagine Safe Passage is like the same two or three adults every single day at all
right.
the same times. So I think like that consistency would probably be really helpful for parents.
Hmm.
I think they would just want to know that like what the parents are what the safe passage people are helping to look out for. Because I think particularly around Cleveland, there has just been a lot of things. So I think they would just want to make sure that their kids are as safe and looked after as possible, which goes without saying.
The and you're correct, Leah. The main issues are trust. The trust factor is the biggest thing. Parents want people who, one, they can trust. Two, they want people who are made. I mean, who they know can be around their children. They don't want just any randos who
Mhm.
that they are not. The background checks are important. All that stuff is critically important. And then also, they don't want people who are connected with a way in which may endanger themselves, the teachers in the school, etc. So all that stuff is extremely important. And so because of that, um, even though the safe passage programs has certain people who may be affiliated in or helpful, they have their parents, and so they really want to make sure that their children are safe. Now, the political atmosphere has some of these groups and organizations pulled into different directions, so they're not as hyper focused as they used to be initially. As Leah mentioned back, it's from August, because some of the energy has dissipated to a degree, but everything is volatile because people like to
Mhm.
be keep us in a state of chaos around here. But in any case, the the goal is to try to restabilize the entire process for the parents and the children getting back and forth to school. But it's the situation is just we it, this we need more people. We need more people who fits into the description of being safe people that the parents can trust, who've been vetted, that the parents are happy with, and that the children are also happy with being around,
Mhm.
especially when you're talking about elementary school, because that's extremely important. And so and it just, even though people are helpful in moments, the
Mhm.
consistency, as Leah mentioned, doesn't keep going on, because it's very difficult to get people to sign up if it's not something that they're passionate about for a moment. They'll do it probably for a couple of weeks. Then, when the energy dies down, then you have to recruit a whole nother group of people, and so that's really what the problem is. So.
Yeah. Well,
And we
also I
train them,
think.
and we train them. I meant to say, we train people with 3D CAC. We do some training to
Mhm.
help with, so that's helpful. So at least I can tell you there's a training process, to make sure that the right people are going in. I apologize,
Mhm.
guys. I'm getting a call. It's a 7:30 call, but okay, let me get off. Thank you. Bye.
Well, what I was going to say is, I think those are all some very good points that I, did not know as much about before, and I think it would be great to include some of those points about training, finding people that the community can trust, the importance of consistency for, really benefiting students, kids, and parents. Sounds like that's very important for whatever program exists to help kids get to and from school and to maintain a presence around schools to sort of be the eyes and ears for parents when they're not around. And I would love it, Leah, if you could potentially take the lead on drafting a resolution for expanding safe passage to elementary schools. You can mention the ones in our area that we talked about. You can mention a lot of the points we just discussed about why we think this is necessary. You can even mention that Jasmine Banab from the Deputy Mayor of Republican Safety and Justice's office, supports this idea, though we might want to check with her before putting her name in a resolution. Yeah, what do you think of that?
I think that makes sense. When would we want it by? Because I'm assuming it would be lovely
Mhm.
to have it done before the end of the year so we could at least I don't know,
Yeah, yeah.
start to figure out how to get it going. But
I mean, if you could present a draft at the next meeting, I think that'd be great. That gives you a little bit more than a month because the next meeting's on the 14th. I'm happy to help if you want to run anything by me. Karen is always very involved. Feel free to email it out to just everybody so that, Julius and Nakapan can take a look as well and make some suggestions. But yeah, I think it would be great if at the next meeting we could take a look at a draft and, maybe we'll vote on it, maybe we won't. But we'll have the option to if we feel ready and if we want to discuss it more and make some more changes, then we can always do that. But I totally agree that I think it'd be great to vote on this definitely, or to have the full commission vote on it definitely before the school year. I just think that'd be a good, it'd be good to get this done over the summer before the school year starts. Obviously, I don't think Safe Passage is going to be expanded for this school year. I think they already have a lot of their plans figured out, but the sooner we can start advocating for it, the better. And I'm sure this is an easy one that I think we could probably get, the next step in this, which is where the work really begins, is actually reaching out to other commissions that have elementary schools to get them to pass this, because the more commissions we can get on board, the more that the city and the mayor and the council will pay attention to this and take this idea seriously.
I have a question, Francois, because I know we do write resolutions for the commission, and I don't know if it what I haven't seen these next steps after the resolutions are written. Do they sit on the digital shelf, or what's actually happening? Because I would love to see like we've written resolutions before. What's the
Hmm.
timeline? I mean, what actually has occurred? What actions are taken after these resolutions are written? Because I know Leah and we go in front of the council. That's one thing. But I
Hmm.
want to see the like a timeline for the activity that occurs after the resolution has been passed from ANC 1B, and where does it go besides in the archives. I mean, I really want to see
Yeah,
some
yeah.
work.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and that's, something that I've been thinking about a lot in my first year as ANC. So when we pass the resolution, we of course file it with the system online, but we're also emailing directly the appropriate agencies, council members who need to see it. So we are sending it directly to folks. There's a lot of conversations that do happen offline, I would say, where ANC commissioners are speaking with council members or they're speaking with agency officials and they are explaining the resolution. They're talking about the issues that they're concerned about. They're advocating for the solutions that are included in those resolutions. Sometimes it doesn't always go our way. I'll give an example. Julius and I had worked on a transportation resolution actually about bike-friendly speed bumps, and we passed that resolution. DDOT acknowledged receiving it, and I actually spoke with the director of DDOT at one of our commission meetings, and then outside of the commission meeting at the strategic bikeways roundtable, and she explained why they haven't implemented the bike safe speed bumps yet, and how they had studied it and they concluded that it wasn't the best path forward. So I don't necessarily agree with that, but we were able to show her that the community cared about that issue. I think, we were able to advocate, and she acknowledged that DDOT could do a better job with deciding where they're going to put their speed bumps and thinking about them in the context of uh, strategic bikeways, that lots of people are using. And so, that's just one example of, I think, how we can do follow up. But I do think for some of these larger efforts, like the housing resolution I recently passed, and other things like that, I've been speaking with other commissions, hoping that they will, pass the resolution or pass some version of the resolution. And I think that with something like Safe Passage, which obviously impacts our area, but impacts, all of DC, wherever there's an elementary school, I do think it's important for other commissions to adopt that resolution. I know that when there was a lot of concerns about the federal takeover of MPD, our chairperson got a bunch of signatories from a bunch of different commissions on board with an op-ed and with a resolution and maybe a sign-on letter opposing, the federal occupation of DC and takeover of our police department. So those are some examples of follow-up, but I definitely think that's an area that, is that the follow-up is what matters in terms of actually getting these resolutions in front of the people they need to be in front of,
Yeah,
and
I
doing
want to
what we
see
can
a
do there.
tracking. I would like to see a tracking plan that shows exactly what's the status of all these resolutions once it's been passed. Because the reason why I'm saying that is because, I mean, it's a lot of work that goes into resolutions, and I mean, as you mentioned, the things that I've put a considerable amount of work in a lot of the resolutions under ANC 1B and other commissions. But the great weight that ANCs have is extremely important. But it doesn't just need to sit in these digital shelves. So I need to, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
somebody's calling me again, but
Yeah, I
I'll
was
talk
gonna,
to you.
yeah, I think that's a great point. Something I'll talk with our team about. I will say we do have Roxana on. So I'm going to allow her to speak. Hello. Are you able to unmute? Roxana, can you hear me? Oh,
Oh, is can you guys hear me?
yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, so um I do apologize for being late, but
No worries.
um so I'll go off from the questions that some students answered on the safe passage question.
Well,
Um
first, could you just
oh
introduce
yeah.
yourself real quick? Tell us a little bit
Oh
about yourself,
yeah.
where you are in school right now, how long
Um
you've lived in DC for.
okay, my name's Roxana Montero. I've lived in DC basically my whole life. I did move back and forth from Maryland. I'm currently a junior at Cardozo, and I am now taking the role as student council president from vice president. Some things to know about me is I like to draw, I like to go outside and study with my friends, and I like to be involved in my school's community.
Great. Thanks so much. Sounded like you had maybe prepared some responses to some of the topics I sent over. Feel free to talk about anything. Just very curious to get your perspective on, the issues that are impacting you and your peers, you and the other students at Cardozo, and then I'm
Mhm.
sure some of our committee members would love to ask you some questions, but feel free to share what you prepared.
From Based on the responses from the Safe Passage, a lot of people from our school have had positive experience with the Safe Passage ambassadors, but they have seen that they aren't really encouraging students to go to school on time. And a lot of these cases, sometimes they're just distracted on their phones instead of like greeting people in the morning or like really helping us get to school. Um, I've had some students from like Dunbar High School share that they have like prevented anything from escalating outside their schools, where in some cases students from like Jackson Reed share that the Safe Passage ambassadors weren't doing much. That assigned on they were just assigned on their routes and just on their devices. And a lot of them did say that maybe it's time to check up on them and make sure they're executing their like orders properly.
Yeah.
And yeah. Um, and then for ideas on how to keep DC and the youth from committing crimes and just having a safe area, a lot of people did say like mentorship programs provide after school activities and improving community policy. As tough as the goal may be, some ways is to really connect with the students. Sometimes a lot people struggle with like having a sense of like trust with somebody and tend to keep it up to themselves or just like with people around the community. So having one-on-one may help with people. As well as a buddy system that pairs you with someone that matches your interest. It can show you what a career or hobbies look like when they get to adulthood. And yeah, the main part was just forming mentorship with others. And some kinds of, ways the youth can stay involved in spaces is like more programs dedicated to arts like theater, dance, music. And like STEM workshops, creative art spaces, and spaces where people can be involved in leadership and advocacy groups, and as well as like a safe place to meet new friends that are part of the LGBTQ community and have a sense of belonging with other students. And then a big part of the questions was the recreation centers. A lot of people have not heard of recreation centers around my school area. A lot of them like have never seen them or have been to one
Hmm.
because the popularity for Cardozo students to visit is really low. Um,
So what rate? Sorry.
like the popularity of these recreation centers
Oh,
is
I see.
really low. Like not a lot of
Hmm.
people like tend to go to them. Like even myself, I didn't know about a recreation center until I was answering these questions. So I definitely say maybe like advertise these places like in school and really get folks to rather instead of being on the streets to like maybe head to these places. But I also do think that it may seem as another way of isolation to them, just like school. Instead of being given the ability to be outside free, they're rather having to turn to these space areas where people want to put them into.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, yeah, and another one is like the big question is what is driving like young people to gather in the U Street area. Um, a lot of us do think that U Street is a really popular area. It's really accessible to go to, like the metro stations right there, and as well other buses. So it's really easy and accessible to meet up at that spot. And as well as the big franchise, like there's food spots people like to go to. Um, and the curfew as well. Not a lot of people like really follow the curfew over there, and U Street has not really seen a lot of like officers or anything like that telling these kids to go home or like following the curfew. I feel like that's also something that maybe can be helped with, like having people on their station and just making sure nothing's getting out of hand that much.
Hmm. Yeah. So
Mm.
just to follow up, you're saying that a lot of students aren't feeling like there are people there telling them to go home before the curfew.
Yeah, I feel like especially in U Street area, like I
Hmm.
feel like most people have given up on even trying to redirect them.
Hmm. Hmm. Great. Well, yeah, was there anything else you wanted to share or that was a lot. So that was really great. Very, very helpful. Because
Yeah.
we don't normally hear from students and you all are the most involved with all this.
hmm Well, just one big part is like issues that people are facing in
Yeah.
school. Like a lot of us are worried about like the workload that teachers are giving out. One big problem for me was like our school counselors. There's only one counselor representing two grades at the moment, which gives them a really hard time to really get to know each other and get to know every student. But at the same time, it's like also harming a lot of us for opportunities to be able to apply for. It's making it difficult because our counselors sometimes are being reliable and their professionalism. I've had encounters with my counselor where I didn't have good like interactions with her because of her attitude, and sometimes she shows her favoritism really clear against other students. So it has been hard to really communicate her and just get an overall good connection with her. Yeah, that's about it.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for all that. Yeah, I wanted to see if anyone else on the committee has any questions because I just sent over some ideas and topics beforehand that Roxana, you did a really yeah, thanks for like answering basically all those questions I had because I know
Mhm.
I wrote out kind of a lot there.
No, thank you.
I really appreciate you coming on board, Roxana. You have done a wonderful job tonight, and
Mhm.
and congratulations on your position for student council president.
Thank you.
I want to know because you know everybody as Francois mentioned, everybody's always talking about what to do with students and referring to them as juveniles, which I really don't think is a great way to refer to young people, because they're not juveniles, they're young people who are growing up to be adults. So you guys are going to have a lot of responsibilities pretty soon, and but you're doing a great job now. But everybody, there's different people. Every just like we have different adults, we have different young people.
Mhm.
What is it that is you're representing your school, so you have different people based on what you're seeing and hearing, and tell me, and specifically the people who you're talking about, the groups. What do you feel that people? How do they feel that they're interacting with the youth curfew? How do they feel about the youth curfew? How do they feel about needing any type of you said this is the first time you even heard of a recreation center, which is that
Yeah.
was a really important thing to hear. How do you
Mhm.
feel about, and what would you like to see at recreation centers? So those are the two questions. How do you feel about the youth curfew?
Mhm.
And then this is your school, get a consensus from what you've heard from the grapevine in your school. And then also, if you guys are going to these recreation centers, which there's a lot of them in DC, what would you like to see there? So those are the two questions.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. My from what I've seen from students with the youth curfew, last year one of my teachers really emphasized on the curfew. A lot of people did have problems with it, especially like going down to the wharf. I know they added like a curfew that I know underage minor was allowed to be there after 5. And a lot of my classmates were like protesting that they don't even be doing a lot of activities like that involve them being like loud or being like, just not being safe. Um, but I feel like this year has calmed down a bit. I don't really hear anybody complaining about the curfew that much. Um, so I don't know, like I feel oh sorry. Maybe enforcing the actual curfew. Sometimes they're just looking past it, but it could definitely be handled better, like in areas like our downtown, um, so that there aren't any arguments or any worst cases like violence. And oh, I'm sorry. Could you repeat your second question?
Well, okay, now the curfew, I certainly get. You
Mm-hmm.
said that it's different than it was before, so you
Yeah.
don't feel a lot of the energy like you did before when it first started. But
Mm-hmm.
now it's a little different, so I understand that. But the second question was recreation centers. You said you guys never heard about the recreation centers. I know, and I can imagine you're in school all the time, so you hadn't got a
Yeah.
chance to enjoy it for your outside extracurricular activities. But
Mm-hmm.
those are spaces that DC specifically has paid a lot of money to have these places open for kids to have a chance to do recreation activities, out, which is after school activities, like they can play sports, they can congregate with each other and enjoy each other's company and do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stuff, and not necessarily work on your homework, but just to do different extracurricular activities that's not associated with the school.
Mm-hmm.
So the question would be, it's supposed to be a fun place for everybody to go to. And I was just wondering, what type of activities do you all think would be, but you can ask your classmates and ask your schoolmates, what type of activities would be great that DC should have for everyone throughout the year for age groups, for your age group
Mm-hmm.
and up from, as young as fourth grade all the way up to 12th grade.
Well, some things definitely like areas where we can like really do workshop and tutoring. Not a lot is being offered around my school, and I know a lot of people like would really want the help, especially for like SAT prep or like AP testing, as well as like ACT. I know only like two schools in DC offer that, and it is like really limiting a lot of people from taking it. But I'd also say like extracurriculars that involve like nat international or national competitions like DECA and HOSA, those two were some big groups that clubs that wanted to happen at my school, but due to like no teacher being able to sponsor or be part of it, it was difficult for anybody to be interested. And as well, starting up any clubs, like not a lot is being offered because there's not really anybody to sponsor these groups and just be part of the clubs. So I definitely would say like clubs where people can learn to be a leader and advocate in many other ways would be some top ways that these recreation centers can have youth engaged.
Oh, okay. That's so basically an extension to all the school clubs, the various clubs that people are interested in. You think you can do a survey to find out what kind of clubs that people are interested in the school?
Yes, I would be able to. Yeah.
That would be a great project that we can work on. So I
Mhm.
appreciate your answer. Thanks a lot, Roxana.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Great. Did anybody else have any other questions?
More of a comment. I just want to thank you, Roxana, for sharing, what you're seeing out there. We as the people that are obviously trying to make public safety priority in the area, it's it's important to get, to see what you're seeing, and so we really do appreciate. Okay, okay. Sorry, guys. I really do. She's about bedtime. I really do appreciate what you're seeing, what telling us what you're seeing, and because we're like talking about expanding a program, and we're hearing that it may not be as effective as we think it is. So as if you can continue to share with us what you're seeing, and hopefully the changes that will come of this information. So thank you again, and I just want to say you're doing a great job, and we'd love to hear more about what your students think in the future.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, totally. Just want to, yeah, definitely second that. Thanks for making this time work and hopping on last minute, since I know that it sounds like Layla, the former student council president, is actually moving. So lots of change happening. But yeah, we're always here. If the student council is trying to organize an event and wants to work with the advisory neighborhood commission, we're happy to help. We even have some money that we're able to distribute through grants. So if you all ever have an idea for something, that you're trying to put on at your school or an event or some program, we have to get it cleared by a bunch of lawyers, which is unfortunate, but we could potentially help with that. So, let's definitely keep talking. And yeah, really appreciate you jumping on and giving us, some really direct feedback on what young people are seeing and how they're interacting with some of these programs like Safe Passage. Lovely. Well, that is basically our full agenda. Um, I did want to say I submitted the testimony that we had worked on to the Department of Parks and Recreation. Speaking of the rec centers, and so I'm hoping to follow up with them and potentially even email out the testimony to the members of that committee to make sure that they really see it. Going off of Karen's point about making sure that everything that we're writing and working on actually is seen and read and heard by the people it needs to be seen and read and heard by. And yeah, I'm continuing to work with NACPON on applying for a partnership application with the Department of Parks and Recreation so that hopefully Beta Academy can do some programming in one of their spaces. So we should definitely talk more about that.
Quick update on that too. I'm looking into a little bit more closely how to submit that permit, because I
Okay.
know the permitting is
Hmm.
they want a continuous program to use a lot of the areas, a lot of the different multi-purpose rooms and the community centers. And what they're recommending is that we have this 1 day permit that we try to
Hmm.
submit. And I'm gonna send her another email as I look a little bit more closely to get some finer details about how to do it before we submit on the behalf of the ANC. Just because there's got to be a couple things I'm not seeing exactly
Hmm.
where the venue is there particularly. And so I'm gonna be looking a little bit more closely, and then I'll give you updates on what I see there.
Okay, great. And then also, I think you responded recently. There was an email from the Howard Public Safety Department. They were interested in potentially partnering with you. So
Yes, we already had a
I'm
meeting on
curious how that
Wednesday.
went.
It was really good meeting. I met with the police chief over there. He says he's on these calls pretty often. So thank you. This has been a great way to connect with the community. And we were just trying to explore ways of talking more about self-defense or self-awareness in certain situations, particularly, of course, dealing
Mhm.
in a college situation. They're having a whole bunch of new incoming freshmen. I think it's about like 2,300 incoming freshmen every single year. So we are looking to figure out how we can host some type of seminar over there, maybe have an ongoing type of self-defense type of workshops and seminars. So yeah, we're working, and they're very excited about it. So we had a great meeting on Wednesday, and we look forward to making a stronger relationship with Howard University as we go forward.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
Chief Taylor is an awesome
He's
guy.
great.
He's really,
Yep,
really guy, great guy.
That's great to
wonderful.
hear. Look at that, making some good connections.
Yep, yep.
Well, we have Gene Hamza on. Please feel free to share.
Yeah, hi
Thanks for
everybody.
always joining these meetings also.
Thanks for having these meetings.
Of course.
I have a question for Karen. I know the CAC meeting was canceled for last month, but we can anticipate that it will happen this month. And also I am curious about the PSA meetings. Are they occurring? Because I tried to join one yesterday and wasn't able.
Well, the CAC meeting, we postponed it and we're moving everything that we had scheduled for last month to this month, and we are having that. And the PSA meetings, the block captains, they head up their meetings. Which one were you trying to catch?
I'm trying to join the Bloomingdale one, and tomorrow I'm trying to join, I think, 304. 304 or 306.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Well, I'll check in with the captains. I know they have their groups. So I'll check in with the captains and tell them to look out for you. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okie dokie.
Great. All right. Well, unless anyone has any final announcements or things they want to say, I'm going to adjourn our meeting. All right. I am adjourning our meeting at 8:01 p.m. Thank you all for joining. I think this was a very productive meeting. It was lovely to hear from Roxana and MPD and others. So yeah, have a great rest of your month, and I will see you all in April.
Be safe travels. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.